very fact of this place is unimaginable without my Aunt Barbara, who came to be called Cardinal Nandi, and who we come together today to recognize as the amazing force of nature that she is and always was and always will be.
Cardinal Nandi was the, I would say during the time that Jaramogi was alive, the first lady of the church. She and Jaramogi, hand in hand, helped to develop a lot of us raggedy radicals and find standards of interaction with one another, interaction with our community, and ways of thinking that we needed because we were creating a new society. And Jaramogi put out the program. Cardinal Nandi helped to make it real.
Role as a trusted advisor to Jaramogi, her older brother, now the Holy Patriarch, grew to include her role as the creative force behind the business of the shrine bookstores and cultural centers known around the world for their excellence.
They wanted to open this cultural center and bookstore up so that Black people would have a place to come where they can strengthen their connection and identification with the Black experience all over the world, so that people here in Detroit would know what life is like in the Mississippi Delta, would know what life is like for Black people in Brazil, what life is like for Black people in Paris. And it was also opened to be a forum for Black artists and authors.
We used to have speakers come to the church, and a lot of them were authors and writers, and they never had no bookstores would take their books. So they would always come with little satchels full of books. So Jaramogi said, oh, we need to open a bookstore, you know, because these writers shouldn't be carrying books around whenever they go to speak. So anyway, he said, well, you just try to get it started, and I'll get somebody else to run it. That's how he happened to buy that building on Livernois.
When the Cultural Center opened, it was the first one of its kind in Detroit and probably in the whole state of Michigan, and people flocked there.
There was no venue, you know, mainstream bookstores didn't want to be involved with these emerging Black writers who were talking about Black social consciousness, and so the Cultural Center was the place for that to take place.
I remember when the Culture Center first opened, and we were going across the street into the Culture Center, and I just remember so many things in terms of Cardinal Nandi directing the staff.
Cardinal Nandi was a shrewd businesswoman. As the director of the Cultural Center, you know, she had to meet with a lot of different buyers and suppliers, and everything that she did, I believe she learned by doing. It wasn't like she went to business school.
And I never run a bookstore, never run a store. Of course, I got it started and ran it for 30 years. So.
I can remember shadowing her at the bookstore, and meaning just like walking around with her, you know, as she took care of business, and every moment was a teachable moment.
And she was able to pass that understanding and knowledge on to those she worked with for becoming managers.
She taught me some basic skills. She taught me to be proud as a Black person and to work hard to ensure that the people who came into the bookstore felt proud also.
I mean, when I started in the Cultural Center, I had no experience with sales, no experience with management, but she kind of, every time I spoke with her, gave me a tip on what I could do to make some improvements. She was like a mother, and she was also a mentor for me. You know, I think about, she took a kind of rough around the edges country girl who had no experience, really, and really kind of shaped me into the woman, really, that I say I am today because of her.
My wife came to the church with a lot of talent. She chose to go with the Shrine of the Black Madonna Culture Center under Cardinal Nandi. She was always very, very, very excited about going to work. The Culture Center was her thing. Cardinal Nandi guided my wife in her development, taught her management.
I think we did all, you know, Cardinal Nandi had a similar effect on all of our lives. I think she embraced us, sort of like daughters by proxy.
I remember one time we had gone to a conference, it was a booksellers conference, and we'd gone to New Orleans, and I was responsible for making arrangements. Well, I had never done that before. I didn't have a credit card. I didn't know how to do the room, book the room, any of that. Well, when we got to New Orleans, nothing went right. And I just knew at that point, I said, if this was a real job, I'd really be fired. But she was really patient. We ended up staying with a guy who was an editor with Ebony magazine. So she knew people all over, and everybody knew her.
And what she did was the cultural center was just take a building that was a real estate office, truly, and turned it into a mecca for people from all over Michigan to come to not just see the African artifacts we had, but also to get any kind of book dealing with the Black experience at the bookstore, to find jewelry, to find recordings, to find statuary, clothing. And she had this kind of personality that when Africans came to Detroit, they would bring some of the most beautiful, humongous statues to the Cultural Center first. And it would tickle me because I would see things that the Detroit Institute of Arts and other museums would pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for. And we had them in the Cultural Center already because the people from Africa knew what our spirit was, so they'd bring them to Cardinal Nandi first. And so she'd pick what she thought, would be good for the community.
I had a customer tell me once that they were in Senegal, I think, and they were thinking about buying an art piece. And the person was, they were trying to figure out how they were going to get it back home because it was kind of big. And so the African vendor said, well, where are you going? What city are you in? And they said, oh, we're going to Detroit. Or he said, well, don't buy it here. Go to the Shrine. They have everything.
Also, think about the impact that the Culture Center bookstores had on the just bringing images of the divine in blackface. It's something people take for granted now. Black Jesus, Black Madonna, the Black baby, Black adult Jesus, Black baby Jesus, and these are greeting. We were the first store to carry black images on greeting cards, and then all the greeting card companies who made millions off of that are now doing it. It's commonplace now.
The Cultural Center did a good business. We raised a lot of money from the proceeds from that Cultural Center. We opened one in Atlanta and one in Houston. Wherever we had a church, I would set up a Cultural Center.
When the church expanded to Atlanta, Georgia, I became the manager of the Cultural Center there, and I was 20 years old.
Not only did she give other people opportunities to grow their businesses and grow, like Kenji was saying, publishers and writers who you never heard of before, who now are like world renowned. It was because of her efforts that some of them had opportunities. And so I really admired the way she worked, but she saw good in people and did what she could to kind of bring that out.
Core reason that Cardinal Nandi directed us to do these things is because we still need to be able to embrace ourselves as an African people. And the Cultural Centers provided that impetus, that information, so that we can, now it's built into what we see on a regular basis. Some of the art directors for like the Cosby Show, I don't know if you are familiar with this, but the Cosby Show was, the art director would go to our Atlanta Cultural Center, and some of the materials that you would see in the background actually came from the Cultural Center because they knew that this was the place to come and get this kind of material.
The Shrine is deeply ingrained in the cultural landscape of Detroit and our other cities, but especially here in Detroit. It is a cultural landmark, and it is a place that serves as a reference point really for Detroit, period, when it comes to all things Black.
Freedom schools were set up at the training center, at the Cultural Center, and Black teachers from all over Detroit set up classes and taught Black children for free. And these were certified teachers. teaching not just ABCs, but mathematics, algebra, foreign language, whatever. And the Cultural Center was the base.
She was a tireless worker for this institution and for her people. She stood up for what she believed, and she was not afraid to speak her mind and her truth and her dreams for herself and her family, but most of all, her dreams for us, for this place, for this idea, for this struggle that will not stop until we do.
She'd send people out that worked in the Cultural Center to schools in the community, especially during Black History Month, to promote awareness and about our heritage and show, that we're proud African people.
I've had an experience in the last few years where people have come in here and said, I remember you. My mama, my dad, they used to bring me here when I was little, and they're adults bringing in their children. And I just found that to be so heartwarming, because what we're doing is transgenerational, it's multi-generational, where the parents were seeking information and knowledge, and they brought their children, and now their children are adults, and they're doing the same thing.
As Jaramogi said today, we changed the world, we affected the world. Cardinal Nandi had a whole lot to do with that. Jaramogi dreamed the dreams. Cardinal Nandi put a lot of the instruments in place to make that dream happen.
And the Lord was looking after us because we were trying to do right. And we helped a lot of Black people, get started.
So I think Cardinal Nandi's dream was to see us all over this country and beyond the country, the diaspora, to have Black people all over come together, stand up like the mighty Mandingos that we saw in Senegal, to walk with pride, with our heads up high as the kings and queens that God created us to be.
She affected every institution that we have.
But Cardinal Nandi was a kind of archetype leadership, and she and Ayala and other ladies in the church were part of a bouquet of wondrous women and people, not just women, but leadership that brought to us what they call now the feminization of leadership in the world today. They were, I think, forerunners of that.
She is more than a living legacy. She is more than a role model, more even than a loving mother and a devoted grandmother. She is a woman, full-grown and spirit-filled. She is a divine presence in our lives, and for her loving light we say thank you, Cardinal Nandi. Thank you, Aunt Barbara. And we pledge that our lives will reflect the excellence of yours and be worthy of the lessons we have learned by watching you make revolution irresistible.
I'm too close to my journey, saying I'm too close to saving Black people's soul. And I wouldn't take nothing for my journey right now. Lord, we've got to build a Black nation somehow. I'm too close to finishing this here race, and I just got to see my Black Jesus face. Hallelujah. Lord, to get to heaven, and I can't. Well, all right. I'm too close to winning my crown, close to stop and turn around. I know that I must leave this world of strife. Lord, Lord, you know I want eternal life. I'm too close to reaching my goal. I'm too close to saving black people's soul. Hallelujah. Lord, to get to heaven. And I can't